Welcome to another episode of the podcast.
Hi.
We are continuing our series on Hebrews. I'll be looking at Hebrews 11 for this episode.
Woohoo.
Let's get into it. So, Kevin,
What's up?
are you still a big superhero guy?
I don't know what that means exactly.
You used to be into Marvel and stuff.
I mean,
Have you kept up?
like, because all the movies kind of suck right now. I really feel like I haven't.
Okay.
I try to. I actually watch a lot less TV now. It's very sad.
Depends
Like
on who
all,
you
like
ask,
all
I
the
guess.
Disney stuff. Like I haven't seen any of the new Disney stuff for like over
Well,
like
that's
a
not-
year. Like any of the Marvel stuff.
Oh, okay.
Like the last 2 years, I don't think I've seen any of the shows that came out or anything.
Gotcha.
So
Well, let's hope you can still answer my question.
okay, fine. No, I am. I'm a huge superhero person. Woohoo!
So, so who is your favorite superhero or movie character?
Well, hold on. Superhero or movie character? Two very different questions.
The question was posed as both, but I'm limiting to superheroes, I guess.
Okay.
Don't return the question to me because I am not as versed and I don't have one.
Okay.
So who is your favorite superhero?
How do you not have a favorite superhero? That's crazy.
I don't watch them like that.
But you should. Oh, fine. Well, think of a favorite movie character then.
Mulan.
I actually knew you were gonna say that one too. Favorite superhero probably changes from time to time, but I would say right now
Interesting.
I am leaning towards. It'd be a tie between like Spider-Man and Superman.
Why?
So with Superman, I've always liked the idea that he is so powerful that he could actually just theoretically like dominate everyone if he wanted to. But he chooses not to. And they have storylines where like Superman does dominate the world. There's also a few lines, and I don't know if they're from comics or just from like TV shows and movies, where when he finally fights like a bad guy that can actually like go toe to toe with him, and he can actually let loose, he actually has this like, I can't remember the line exactly, but he's like, he feels like he's always walking on cardboard when he's on Earth because he's so powerful. And now that he's fighting this one person, he can just like let loose and fully just be who he is.
Send it. Nice.
Yeah. So there's that. And what I think also fascinates me about Spider-Man is people don't realize Spider-Man is also extremely strong. And in both cases, a lot of times they're beating up like regular people, right? Like when Batman fights like a regular person, it's messed up because he knows all this martial arts stuff, but like he's also just a regular guy. When Superman's going after like a guy that robbed a bank that doesn't have powers, it's very uneven, right? But it's the same thing with Spider-Man. And I forget which one of the movies. There's one where like when he just gets his powers, someone pulls a knife on him and he goes like, "Oh my gosh, a knife! You found like my weakness," and he just shoots him with a bunch of web. And it's really funny. I think it's one of the Andrew Garfield movies, like the first one with him. And it's a really funny scene because like the robber thinks like, "Oh, like I got him," and he has like a little knife, and he just starts shooting with a bunch of web and just leaves him there like webbed to like the wall. And it's really funny. But like again, I think for me, when it comes to those characters, it's just this idea of, hey, you have all this power and then know how to show restraint, or the discipline to show restraint. And also I think most superheroes always end up in the dilemma, especially when they have that much power, of there's always some episode, movie, comic book where it's like, do you save your loved one or save everyone else? And that to me is always an interesting dilemma. But yeah.
Nice. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Why is Mulan your favorite movie character? I didn't forget.
Oh, I didn't realize you were coming back to that. Because she's a warrior princess.
Okay. Have you heard of Xena, the warrior princess?
No, I just really liked the movie. I really resonated with it. It was like, wow, she's just a girl, but she's also like this crazy strong, like she fooled the entire army and she rose up the ranks and like whatever, and she became the strongest or the best soldier in the army where she wasn't even technically supposed to have been. Like she outpowered all the men and everything, and she saved China.
That's true.
But she was still just a girl. Like in
Okay.
Mulan 2, she was like teaching the little girls. It was like you still have to be, you can be strong, but you still have to be like calm and soft. Like there's that duality that she kind of presents that I think is super cool.
Okay.
Okay, so coming back to the heroes aspects, right? So in Hebrews chapter 11, I believe it's the first 6 verses, but basically in this chapter, it talks about people that are heroes of the faith. Right? So I'm going to read a little bit of, excuse me, I'm going to read a little bit of it so we can kind of refresh all of our memories. And then we'll get into it. So I'm reading from the NIV, and the little subtitle is Faith in Action. And so from verse 1, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. This is what the ancients were commended for. By faith, we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what is visible. By faith, Abel brought God a better offering than Cain did. By faith, he was commended as righteous when God spoke well of his offerings. And by faith, Abel still speaks even though he is dead. By faith, Enoch was taken from this life so that he did not experience death. He could not be found because God had taken him away. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God. And without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. By faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear built an ark to save his family. By his faith, he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness that is in keeping with the faith. By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. By faith, he made his home in the promised land, like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. And by faith, even Sarah, who was past childbearing age, was enabled to bear children because she considered him faithful, who made the promise. And so from this one man, as good as dead, came descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as countless as the sand on the shore. I'm going to wrap up with verse 13. All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. So that was a bit of scripture. That was about 13 verses. How would you... I know I've described these people just now as like heroes of the faith, but how would you have described the type of faith that they had? Or other question, if I were to ask you about like some examples of people who were, quote, heroes of the faith, would those people have come to mind?
No. Only because I don't know if it's part of just I've heard the story so much, I don't think of it in that way, right? Like when I think of maybe heroes of the faith, I think more so of New Testament people, because like knowing that like most, if not all, 11 of the disciples were killed for their faith. So in my head, like I guess I kind of associated with that persecution aspect. Because to me, what they did was, I guess, sort of normal in that sense, as far as just like
the Old Testament?
Yeah.
People? Okay.
Right? Like their faith is what, I don't want to say it was anything special. It's just that this is what faith is, right? Like they just had faith, right? And it's not to downplay what they did. It's just part of just being in church song. Like you hear these and you go, okay, yeah, Abraham and Sarah had faith that they'd have a kid when he was, I think, 100 or something, and she was 75 or 90, or
I just know that they were both old.
You know, again, like those are things where it's just like, okay, yeah,
You just kind of get desensitized to it.
yeah,
I guess. Okay. I can see that. But I think when it comes down to having faith, not all of those people, like I would not have considered, like Abel would not have come to mind for me.
yeah. I was actually thinking about that too.
Abel would not.
Would not, yeah.
Also, Enoch would not have come to mind, but also reading it in the scripture kind of refreshed in my mind who Enoch was. Because I feel like as much as we learned about him as kids, it wasn't very like.
I don't feel like Sunday school spends a lot of time on Enoch.
Yeah,
Him and Methuselah. No one really talks about. See, forgot about Methuselah.
I did. But yeah, I would say like I feel like Noah is a decent example of faith, like a good example of faith, because everyone was like ridiculing him for building this ark. There was like, it's not going to rain, and even if it does rain, what do you need a boat for?
Yeah.
Basically. And then Abraham, I think also Moses.
Yeah.
Is Moses was in this chapter, right? Isaac, Jacob, Joseph. Yeah, Moses is further down. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot more further down. So I'm pretty sure it mentions Moses,
Isaac,
David,
Jacob, David.
And some maybe not David, but it don't mention some other people from the Old Testament. Most of the people mentioned here, realistically, are just from the Book of Genesis, right? The first, you're up to 13. Yeah, I think up to 13, it's really just the Book of Genesis. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I think that a lot of times when I think by labeling them heroes of faith, I feel like it puts them on a pedestal, and it's like, wow, these people have such crazy faith that I don't think I could ever match up to, right?
Okay.
But I think also they were put in the Bible as an example of the faith that we could have if we were to rely on God in the way that they did.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you. So I think what differentiates, or I guess what separates the faith that I see possible for myself and the faith that I see in these not characters, but people of the Bible, is their actually not even immediate willingness, but their willingness to just lay it all out there, right? To put it all on God and just be like, hey, God, I don't know what is going to happen, but I know, like without a shadow of a doubt, that you are going to carry me through this and you are going to do what you have promised me. Thoughts on that?
So I've always wondered what their relationship with God was like. And it's weird because like I feel like the Bible does tell us, but I feel like for me, I want more information, because obviously for us, right, we can freely communicate with God because of what Jesus did. Right? Now, technically, I guess they couldn't, but then also it's really not until Moses, I want to say, when the 10 Commandments happen, and that's when God really gives all of, not just the 10 Commandments, but the rest of all of the laws, that you now kind of have the thing like roles for the high priest and all these other people. So I'm kind of like, well, were these guys who I guess were technically the heads of their house, so they would have been like the priests of their house, so they were the ones talking to God at that point? Like how did that work? Like I feel like I don't understand that part, because to have the faith they have, I feel like you have to have such a personal connection to God. And I know, I mean, okay, well, Enoch, he gets taken up, right? So he has a super close relationship with God.
Immediately.
I know Abraham has multiple, or there's at least one discussion I can think of that Abraham has with God as it pertains to Sodom and Gomorrah being destroyed, right? So there are these instances in which they have, for BC time, right? Like before Christ and the crucifixion, they have these amazing encounters with God, right? So it I'm like, okay, I can kind of understand how you got that level of faith, but I also want to know, like, I want to know what their like daily prayer life was because they had no Bible.
I've thought about that because like in the Jewish tradition, right? I don't think obviously I'm not super well versed.
I thought you were gonna say obviously I'm not Jewish, and I was like, well,
No.
clearly.
But I feel like from what I do know, there's no direct like you don't just pray the way we pray. Right? So there's no direct communication or like thing, but like aside from through the high priest. So that's why when they talked about like a lot of like these figures, I'm like, because I know a lot of times you're like, oh, the men have to go up to the mountains, have an encounter with God and stuff like that. How did they figure that out?
Well,
and then also like, I know that a lot of things were like word of mouth and passed down through generations by like oral tradition and stuff like that. But it still is like, this is not what we're anyway. But it always like baffles me how, as things were passed down through oral tradition, the stories never shifted. Right? It's remained constant. That, but also like the faith of the people, like of a lot of the people of the Old Testament, was very unwavering, having not experienced directly maybe an encounter with God. But also I feel like I'm very limited to my experience as it is now, where like, you know, you can have an encounter with the Holy Spirit like anywhere, as long as you're like in the mindset and looking for it and like, you know, actively participating in certain things.
So one of the things that I kind of relate some of these people to, the only person in the New Testament I can relate them to, and I know we're way off topic at this point, but it would be Mary, mother of Jesus, because when you think about how she gets called, right, specifically her, because in that birth of Jesus story, that Christmas story, she gets spoken to, and John's Zachariah, he gets spoken to, right? But he was a priest, so I'll exclude him from this conversation, right? But Mary gets this visit from the angel, right? And one of the things, and maybe this is the answer to the question that I had, was, because I think it's the same thing with Noah, where it's, they lived such good lives before the Lord that when the Lord needed someone to call upon, he knew he could call upon those people, right? Because even like I was trying to look at with Noah, in the story of Noah, it's God looked at the earth, and again, a very to me powerful thing is that he says that he like regretted making people. In Genesis 6 verse 7, I'll wipe them from the face of the earth of the human race I've created, and with them the animals, birds, creatures move along the ground, for I regret I have made them. But in verse 8, but Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord, right? To me, that's very reminiscent of the story of the Virgin Mary, because she also found favor in the eyes of the Lord. And I think maybe it was such a practical thing of just being able to actually live a righteous life before the Lord for whatever being righteous could be at that time, that God saw that. And maybe that's where now we see by faith, when Noah was more like, Noah was following whatever commands they had from God at that time, to the point where when God told him something, he was able to recognize God's voice and then follow through on it.
Okay.
And none of this is in the Bible. This is not like, please do not
just
quote
pals.
this. Yeah. Two pals just rambling.
Just saying our
that should be the
thoughts.
name of this podcast. But yeah, because even just, again, looking back at the lives of the people in Hebrews, of like, okay, like Abel, right? I think that caught both of us off guard, right? Like he gets quoted. But if you look at Genesis 4, I want to say, right? I have the NIV and the Message open at the same time, right?
Okay.
When it talks about the offerings that they brought in Genesis 4, verse 3, in the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. That's NIV. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. And the Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain he did not. Message translation, time passed, Cain brought an offering to God from the produce of his farm. Abel also brought an offering from the firstborn animals of the herd, choice cuts of meat. God liked Abel and his offering, but Cain and his offering did not get his approval. Cain lost his temper and went on to sulk. Again, you see here, somehow Abel learned before Moses is giving the Ten Commandments and all these laws that
Moses was even a thought.
right before any of this happens, somehow from Adam and Eve to Cain and Abel, we see Abel learns, oh, I should give God the best of what I have, and Cain is like, here's some of what I have, right? And we see right from the beginning, God wants the best from us, not just whatever from us, right? And then we see he gets this credit here in Hebrews 11. So I think there was something to, I think a lot of times we talk about the heart as believers, like in today's world, but in the Old Testament, there was something to men and women who just, I mean, obviously I think their heart was behind it, but they had the actions to prove the place their heart was in as it pertained to God.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, I think that's what this chapter is about, realistically, or that's the people that are highlighted in this chapter.
I think, yeah. I think one thing that also is like, maybe astounding is a word that comes to mind, but it's also it feels very strong for this situation. But one of the things that I find very like interesting or mind changing is that we have these people as examples to lean on. They didn't necessarily have that then. So a lot of times when they were living and walking by faith, it was purely by faith. It wasn't like, oh, I know that God has come through for these people, so then he will do it for me. Maybe it was, but from like what I've seen and I've read, that's insane to me that they were just purely living by faith and walking by faith, which is like insane in a good way, to clarify.
Well, the other thing, right? Just looking at, because basically, if we're looking at just these people, right, from Abel to Abraham, is basically Genesis 4 to, I think Abraham shows up in chapter 10. Let's find out if I'm right. Yes. Abraham is first mentioned, 11. Because he gets mentioned at the end of the Tower of Babel, right? So the people mentioned here are the very beginning of the story of the Bible, right? But if you read through that, you'll see these people lived for hundreds of years, right? So I was trying to look it up, and it's believed, or maybe whoever wrote this did the math, right? Noah died. Abraham was born 2 years after Noah died, right? Which means Abraham, who was a descendant of Shem was probably still alive. So Abraham, it would make sense that Abraham still heard a firsthand account of the flood
Yeah.
and the ark,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's an interesting thing that, again, Cain and Abel, they would have heard the story of the garden and knew firsthand what was meant for them and that they don't have anymore.
Yeah.
Same thing for probably Noah, Enoch, like they had these firsthand account, like they probably had first eyewitness testimony of what happened with God and man. So I guess as we've been talking it out now and just rambling, I can kind of see how they had this faith. Because I think that's something, again, that we kind of sometimes overlook, that these guys, their lives overlapped. We just don't realize it within the context of the way the Bible is written.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times I separate them. Because even if they could have been alive in the same time periods, which you've just said that they were, I feel like they were probably still like far apart or like some, like, in my head, I don't.
No, it makes a lot of sense.
I mean?
Because realistically, how many people... I feel like it's quite... Yeah, like Shem to Abraham is still like 5 or 6, probably more generations. Like there's still a big gap there, but...
They were also living very long lives.
Right. So that's kind of the thing there, right? Like I wouldn't be surprised if Abraham had some knowledge, if not from Shem, but maybe one of Shem's kids. Like, like it would make sense that happened.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So okay. Cool. So. Hold on. Okay. So, in Hebrews 11, right? All of these people that were mentioned and the ones that we haven't mentioned, but that are in Hebrews 11, they were all commended for their faith, right? Why were they commended for their faith? Or like, what is one thing, I guess, that they all kind of have in common? The ones that we read, at least. If you can recall.
Is it not that they had faith?
Yes, but no.
Repeat your question one more time.
Why were they commended for their faith? What was it about their faith that was so crazy? Do you want a hint?
No, I actually don't want a hint.
Okay.
I want to try and figure it out on my own.
I'll tell the people. Close your ears. It's in verse 13.
What's crazy is I honestly didn't hear anything, and I don't know if you were just messing with me.
I
That's
whispered.
crazy. That's crazy. I actually didn't hear anything. I didn't think that would work.
Did you hear it, Cara? Okay.
So I'm gonna say it's that. Nope, I don't know. Go ahead. Give me.
So the hint was that it's in verse 13.
I knew it was in verse 13. That's what I've been reading over and over again. This is that they're all dead?
No. They did not receive the things they promised.
I don't know. But verse 13, all these people were still living by faith when they died. So
Yeah.
they're all dead. That's one thing they have in common. I don't know why you guys are laughing at me. I don't appreciate that. I don't really appreciate that.
How do you know they're laughing at you?
Because as soon as I said they died, they all both looked at me and started laughing. Who else are they laughing at?
I didn't see that they looked. So basically, what they were commended for is the fact that they lived by faith, and did not see the fulfillment of the promises that they were promised. Right? So Abraham and Sarah did not see all of the children that God had promised them. Further on, he talks about Moses. Moses did not enter into the promised land. He saw it from afar. Right? And the same with Abel. I guess Abel didn't really see much from what I remember. He was relatively young when he got, but they all lived and walked in faith, regardless of having not seen it come to fruition.
Okay.
That was it. So how can we develop? So the Bible says, as long as you have faith the size of a mustard seed. Can you describe to me how big a mustard seed is?
It's really tiny.
Yeah, I feel like we say that, and I've seen it, but I still wouldn't like. It's literally like
Like I was gonna do that, but I feel like honestly, that's the picture that's pulled up. Mustard seeds are typically measuring 1 to 2 millimeters.
so that's 100th of a centimeter.
Yes.
No, it's 100th of a centimeter, a tenth.
No, sorry.
Don't ask me. I'm
Millimeter
sorry.
is
I shouldn't have said that. Disregard
millimeter
me.
would be a millionth of a meter
Is it 1,000?
or 1,000. Sorry, 1,000.
I don't know. I haven't been in elementary school in quite a long time.
Hold on.
Are you thinking about? I need to Google.
I'm already. 1 millimeter is 1/10 of a centimeter.
A tenth.
What did you say?
100.
Oh,
I don't
you're a
remember.
decimal
I don't
point off.
remember. So a tenth, yeah, 1 to 2 tenths of a centimeter. Insane. So as long as you have that little bit of faith, you can move mountains. Theoretically, but also maybe realistically, I don't know. I haven't tried it. I also haven't encountered any physical mountains to have tested that out. You know what I mean? But as long as you have that little bit of faith, you can live the lives of these people. Because it does not, just because you start with a little bit of faith, it does not mean you end with a little bit of faith. So how is it that we can grow and develop our faith to be that we are capable of moving
So I'm
mountains?
pretty sure somewhere in the Bible it says faith comes by hearing the word of God. So I'm gonna go with that. But I really think that faith is a product of your relationship with God. All of these people mentioned in chapter 11 had some type of relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that relationship, they were able to have faith to do these different things. Even with the other people that are there, verse 32 says, like, I don't have time to tell you about Gideon, Barak, Samson, whatever his name is.
Thought.
Yeah, David, Samuel, the prophets, who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, and gained what was promised, who shut the mouth of lions. Like it goes on to talk about a lot of things that happened, right?
Yep.
So there's a lot more that, like, clearly they had a relationship with God that they believed, okay, hey, this is the situation I'm in, God will see me through it.
Do you know what we were talking about earlier? Not related to what we're talking about right now, of course. But we were saying that, like, a lot of times with the Jewish faith, there wasn't a direct, line of communication. But with Daniel, he prayed 3 times a day in his home. How did he know how to do that?
So I would also chalk that up to the fact that because he was in a foreign land, so a lot of it was that I don't know if it says it in Daniel 1 when he is taken, but I believe it was, he clearly had faith instilled in him.
Yeah.
Before he
Before him and
before he was brought to Nebuchadnezzar's palace.
Mm-hmm.
So Daniel 1 verse 4, from verse 3, the king ordered the chief of his court officials to bring to the king's service some of the Israelites from the royal family and nobility, young men without physical defect, handsome, showing aptitude for every kind of learning, well-informed, quick to understand, and qualified to serve in the king's palace. So Daniel was probably well-trained and knowledgeable of God and God's word at that point. So someone instilled faith into Daniel, and he was able to hold on to that in Babylon. Mm. Is it Babylon? Yeah, Babylon.
You think he just taught himself how to pray?
Probably. Because even Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right?
Yeah.
Like their faith and their ability to go into the fire, again, like what they say to the king before getting thrown into the fiery furnace, which is, we believe God will see us through this. And even if he doesn't, we still trust him, which is a very bold statement to say. And that's not a statement you say without, I think, personally knowing God. Like there are very few people who I would say that about without having not personally known them, right? Like, I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and we saw a friend of ours was like clearly a little distraught, like they're going through it. And I was like, hey, I don't even know what to say to her right now, blah, blah. And they were just like, and I was like, one of two things happened. They went to speak to someone, and they didn't really tell them what happened, and now they're like stressed about that. Or they told the person what happened, and their feelings got dismissed, and that's why they're hurt right now. And the other person was like, yeah, it's probably the second one. I was like, I know, it probably is that one. Because we know the people on us know they can be dismissive. And looking at now, I say that because as you know people personally, you kind of know, all right, they're not going to take that very well. They're not going to think. I think for them to make the statements they made about God, especially Daniel, then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they had to have known him very personally. I don't see how that was just we go to a temple and the high priest does his thing in the temple and then we go away. They had to have known God at a very personal level. I think the same thing goes for Job and the situation we see him in, right? Again,
well, Job cried out to God.
Right? So I think there was definitely people who, and again, maybe it's just by faith again, clearly developed a very personal relationship with God.
Job had crazy faith. Crazy. Have we talked about him before? Like,
I don't think so.
Maybe we will.
We need ideas for our next.
Maybe.
All right, our next series will be the life of Job. No.
Crazy. Okay, so do you think that living by faith is valued in today's day and age?
Valued by who?
In general.
I would say no, because I think people who don't believe in God have no real reason to value faith. But if you're asking, that's why I asked by who, because if you're talking about believers, I think believers will value people who live by faith. I just don't think non-believers would in that sense.
I disagree to an extent.
Okay.
I agree that yes, believers would value walking in faith or value someone that does walk by faith. But I think also a lot of people that aren't believers also live by faith, just not the same kind of faith.
Okay.
Right? Because there are a lot of people that are like, oh, trust the universe. Or like, just like a lot of like things like that, where it's like literally just replace the universe with God, and it's, and so I do think a lot of people do walk in faith or walk by faith, just where they place that faith differs.
Have you ever seen, and now that you say that, have you ever seen, I think it's from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, when they're talking about, there's like a clip online where they're trying to disprove God to one of the characters in the show.
Okay.
And they have like boards up and they're like, faith is just like dumb, like you just believe because like you just believe that a bunch of guys just wrote this book about thing, and they're like, we have science and facts. And then the guy comes up, it's like, yeah, you have science, you have textbooks, books written by a bunch of guys that you don't know. He's like, yeah, but you can do the math. And he's like, oh, so you've done the math? No. So you just believe blindly that these guys did the right math. That sounds a lot like faith. And it's one of the funniest things I've seen. I was just like as you were talking, I was like, yeah. Like, okay, yes. So, you know what? People do value faith. But I think one of the things I love about that clip is that when we're presented with something, I think that can be somewhat more provable, we don't think of it as faith, right?
Okay.
And I love the way the way they wrote that scene, because no, when you read a science textbook, right, or you read a biology textbook, how much of us are actually going and taking a microscope and looking at the things we're reading about? We're not.
I barely even read the things
Right?
that I was supposed to be reading about.
So, right? But like, again, right? Like, okay, where does that, like, yeah, no, you're doing all that on faith that
Yep.
you're taking it on faith that the teacher that's in front of the classroom is actually telling you the right thing. Realistically, right? Like, there is a lot of faith, but we just don't think of it that way.
Yes, but also they have the credentials, I guess.
Did you see the credentials?
A lot of them, yeah. A lot of them have them up in their offices.
Not.
I mean, I didn't see them going to the classes and earning them.
But no, but like, well, and I feel like you're thinking more so of like college.
Yeah.
I'm talking like high school,
Oh.
right? You hardly, like, I can't think of any teacher in high
Had their
school,
degrees on the
like,
wall.
yeah, high school, middle school, I mean, like, they don't have that up, right?
Yeah.
Like, realistically, right? So you're just, and then not for nothing, how hard is it to print a fake diploma? Like, and I'm not trying to discredit people, I'm just saying, like, we take a lot of these on just, yeah, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
There are people watching this right now who are just assuming we know what we're talking about.
Sometimes.
And we have nothing hanging that says we do. And that is how the podcast ended.
Yep.
People,
See you never. Let me get this train back on the tracks. What role do you think God plays in your life?
What role?
Or, if you believe God is active in your life, what do you think he's up to right now?
I don't think I want to answer either of these questions.
Fine, we'll move on.
Okay.
What can make it difficult to trust God when we can't see what he's doing?
I think you just answered your own question. When you can't see what he's doing, it's
But then it's not the
Right.
point of faith.
yes, but you said what makes it difficult to trust God, not have faith in God. There's two different things.
Well,
So,
Okay.
I think it's always hard to trust in something you can't see. And that is where I think faith is what bridges that gap between trusting and like what you don't know, that unknown part.
Isn't
But-
that, yeah. Chapter 11, verse 1, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see.
Right. So,
That's also what the ancients were commended for. The answer to that question.
so I think, now I forgot what your question was.
What is it difficult to trust?
Oh, yes. It could be difficult because we don't have enough faith in God, right? Even though it clearly, as it says in the New Testament, it doesn't require a lot, just the size of a mustard seed. But maybe we just don't actually have trust in God yet, right? I think, again, sometimes,
How would you distinguish between trust and faith? Trusting in God versus having faith in God.
okay. The first time we put together these platforms, I had no idea if it would actually hold my weight until I stepped on it, right? Me stepping on it is an act of faith, right? I am assuming that whoever put it together. Like, there's a lot of assumptions there, right? Anytime I walk on this afterwards, to me, it's trust, not faith, if that makes sense. because I've already tested it and I know it will hold my weight. And
So-
now I expect it to hold my weight every single time, right? So same thing with,
So are you, as you have faith in God, you will then build trust in him?
yes,
Okay.
right? Because, and I think also now that trust though, I think it's cyclical, right? Maybe that's the right word I'm thinking of. Whereas, okay, I've walked on these platforms now, right? If we were to buy another set of these platforms, right? I'm jumping past faith into trust because I already have it, right?
Okay.
So same thing, like we have 2 more sets downstairs. I think we put those in first. I jumped on it, cool. When we put these in, there was never a doubt in my mind now because I know it's from the same person, right? So I guess when it comes to God, it would be the first time I'm sick, I have faith God will heal me. After he heals me, there's no more confidence, and going back to verse 1, it's no longer faith, it's no longer confidence in what we hope for and assurance what we did not see, because now I've seen him do this, so now it's no, I trust God will heal me, right? And I think that is kind of the relationship that we have between trust and faith, where they kind of build on each other, because also at the same time, I trust God to heal me, but to really be specific, maybe I had a cold. So I trust God to heal me with a cold. If I get something worse than a cold, is it trust or faith? I don't know. I think it's a combination of the two now, right? God has done, in a general sense, he's done this, but has he done this specifically for me? No. So I have a certain level of trust and faith now, I think, is really what starts to happen. Same thing if you're here or when you see God move in other people's lives, right? He may not have done it for me personally, but I've seen God, okay, like especially, what was it, 2 weeks or last week? We had Apostle Ram Babu here, right? And we saw people get healed, right? Now, God may not have healed me that specific way, but I'd be lying if I said I don't trust God to heal me after seeing him do it for someone, right? So I do think trust and faith go hand in hand together. I just think faith is, you haven't seen him do it yet. Trust is, he's done it, so I know he'll do it again. That's the only way I can really differentiate the two. Same thing like when you go sit in a chair, right?
I knew the chair was going to come up.
Yeah.
I feel like the chair example is...
Because that's the one from Brother Ezra that he's like instilled in my brain. And that's why when I was looking around, I was trying to like chair. I'm like, I can't use a chair example. But like, again, it's the same thing, right? Most people, you just sit in the chair and assume it's going to hold your weight. That's just what it is.
Nice.
Thank you.
So I'm going to wrap it up here.
Go for it.
Cool with you. Okay. So I would say kind of the moral of this episode is that you don't have to have that superhero-like faith right off the bat, right? That's something that you can grow and develop. But also when you look back at these examples in the Bible, they are there to show you what is possible, but they are not an exaggeration of what is possible, I guess. So like that level of faith is attainable by regular people is what I think that the Bible is trying to show in a lot of these people. These were not like crazy, not all of them were like crazy educated like apostles or like prophets and stuff like that. A lot of them were regular people that just had all of their faith and all of their trust and reliance just on God and on the promises that he had for them. And I think when it's one of those things that I've constantly had to remind myself because it can seem so far-fetched. But when that kind of sinks in for you, it's like, well, maybe I can do that. Do you know what I mean? And it's less of what I think I'm capable of, more so of what has God promised for me, and resting in that promise. Thank you.